My wife ribs me a little bit because I get more choked up at ordinations than I do at weddings, and the reason for that is actually very simple. So for me, as a convert, the priest has always been a sign that God loves me, that Christ loves me right here, right now, not abstractly, right now, and that's been present throughout. It's one of the things that actually led me into seminary for a year. It obviously became clear I had a different vocation. But it's also one of the reasons why a lot of these questions we're asking tonight are so important. I wanted to ask the panelists a question about sort of the administrative and bureaucratic dimension of the episcopacy now, as well as the life of diocesan priests. It seems to me that what has emerged, particularly in the United States, is that pastoral centers and parishes are very heavy on the bureaucratic and administrative demands on bishops and priests. Those demands, I think, fundamentally make it very challenging to be fathers, to be sons, and to be brothers. A priest will go into an assignment as a pastor and say, I'm going to do things differently. I'm not going to be crushed as these others have been. And he ends up doing the same thing. And it's true when priests are named as bishops. I'm wondering, in your view, how can that be reimagined? And what can priests, bishops, and the laity do, including at the parish level, to help reimagine, rethink, and relive parish life and the episcopacy so that it's not almost totally consumed with bureaucratic and administrative demands?
I think that's so true that it's been a chicken and the egg kind of thing with respect to the functional view of the priesthood. Can sort of say, well, how did we get into this bind where priests so often, good men, many times, start to see themselves really primarily as bureaucrats and administrators, and that's true. That has happened in many cases. And I don't think that the sexual abuse I know that's not what the primary focus of the question is, but I don't think that flows necessarily only from that functional view of the priesthood. I sort of think it works the other way around as well. That is to say that a functional view of the priesthood has led to the situation where those men are sort of advanced sometimes, and I think historically they have kind of succeeded, if you will, in the clerical kind of career ladder because they've been effective administrators, not necessarily because they've been effective fathers. So I think it kind of plays both directions, where we see sometimes the failure of leadership in the church is precisely because, first of all, we have sort of collapsed under this, what I believe is frankly a more sort of Protestant view of ministry. And what I mean by that is that it's a focus on ministry which is not primarily about sacrifice or about who one is, but rather about what one does, right? And the programs that one runs, the administration, and and those things are important, of course. But that's not the primary self-understanding of the Catholic priesthood. The self-understanding is that not what I do, but who I am as a spiritual father. Just as your primary identity is not what you do as a father, but who you are as a father. And I think when we get that aligned and we get that calibrated again, I think we're going to see, and I think it is actually in process. I think a lot of young priests really are younger priests are sort of admirably resisting that. And it remains to be seen what will happen as they, go into more positions of leadership. But I think it's very possible to put in place in your life kind of firewalls to make sure that the primary focus of your life continues to be on being a father, and not just sort of paying the bills, as it were, or whatever the equivalent might be, and recognizing that our primary focus has to be on the salvation of souls, not on effective programs. That's one aspect of it. I think kind of that self-awareness. The other is, and you alluded to this, is that what is the role of the lay faithful, especially in parishes? And in my opinion, all these guys have more experience than I do, but in parishes. But I mean, my opinion is that there is a real untapped potential in many places for, people who are far more capable than I am in all kinds of fields, to be of more assistance. And it may be that sometimes, I don't think this is all the time, but sometimes it may be that the priest continues to be, CEO of that parish because he's so afraid of kind of letting go in his own insecurities, perhaps, of letting go of some of these areas where he wants to kind of retain some control. And again, that's not universal, but I think that can afflict some priests. And so the complaints they have of like, all I'm doing is the administration or whatever is a kind of self-inflicted wound often.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to the question that we had earlier about the role of the laity and helping priests. And this is a very practical thing. As a pastor of a large parish, yes, I gladly rely on a business manager and other laity in the parish and on the staff who handle all of those administrative things, and I oversee them, but I don't want those things to get in the way of don't want it to make me forget my identity as a priest, as Father Griffin was saying, and that the primacy of sacrifice, the primacy of the identity of the priesthood. And when Bishop Burbage arrived in Arlington, one of the things he said to the chancery staff was, I want you to be working here so I can go out there and visit schools and things like that. And I thought to myself, well, I want to do that. Why does he get to do that? And now, I think that's. But I thought, well, that's kind of a good. That's a good way of going about it, and that's the way I think that a pastor has to do it in a parish. Is find the people there in the parish, whether volunteers or staff, who can handle those things. He can entrust them with these duties and responsibilities, so he can be freed up to first of all be a priest, and then second of all to do those things that only a priest can do.